Hello, and welcome back to the Collegian Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm David O'Brien.
And I'm Kylie McGovern. Welcome back to the pod. Today we're joined with Father Frank as our special guest. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Father Frank, I work in campus ministry and teach in the honors program, and I've been here a few years.
A few years?
How long have you actually been here? If you don't mind me
Since
asking.
1996.
Oh, wow.
Fall of 96 I came.
You've been here before we were born.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Glad I waited around.
Us too.
So happy to hear that. Yeah, so you're from Philadelphia, right?
Correct.
Why don't you tell us what it's like being from Philly and why you decided to stick around?
Okay. Well, first of all, I was born in Philly, the Port Richmond neighborhood, Baptized Nativity Parish. Then we moved to Mayfair. Then we moved up to Bustleton, and from like 6th grade on, and then went to Archbishop Bryan High School. And then actually I went to the Midwest for about 10 years.
Really? Wow.
For school, went to Marquette University for my undergrad, and then Dubuque, Iowa for seminary, and served as a deacon in a parish in Green Bay. Yeah, so, and then actually I wanted to stay up there.
Oh.
Even though my family was all here, but I made a circle of friends. I mean, Wisconsin people are incredibly friendly. Yeah, I had a circle of friends out there and I enjoyed it, but I really, really wanted to be a teacher, and they had no positions out there for me. And so I came back to Philly and taught at Ryan for 3 years, and then went to do my doctoral studies at Fordham up in the Bronx, and then spent 8 years at St. Bonaventure University. I'd come back to Philly area for summers, mostly for the Jersey Shore, and then after my stint at Bonaventure, I short time in another place, and then landed here at LaSalle. And actually started in campus ministry full time and teaching, and then I directed the grad programs in theology. Now I'm back to ministry,
Here you
and
go.
it's good.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Did you always know you wanted to go into ministry, or did you kind of have like some like turmoil back and forth, like not knowing? I don't know. Take us through that process.
Okay. My first sense of vocation was really to be a teacher. But I had a problem because, like in elementary school, it was all like religious sisters and lay women. There were no men teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, I just didn't see there could be a job for me doing that. I didn't know anybody that did that. And I thought you had to be really smart to teach high school. But then I went to high school and I said, oh, I could do that. And there were men who taught in high school. I said, they're men and they can. And then so that was my plan. I went to college thinking I'm going to become a high school teacher. And then like junior, senior year, I thought, might it be fun to teach college? Well, I said, you got to be really smart for that. You got to like read footnotes and like quote people. And so I said, I don't think I'm that smart. So I, put it off, and I really enjoyed high school, taught high school for about 5 years. And, but then it was like college. I wanted to teach college. And in the midst of all that was, I had thought, I think like a lot of, guys do in grade school, like 7th, 8th grade, maybe I'll be a priest. I was friends with one of the parish priests, and then I sort of put it out of my mind. I really wanted to teach, but then I met priests who were teachers. Okay. And sometimes I went back and forth a little bit. That was but I wouldn't say it was gut-wrenching. There were just times you thought, this is crazy. The people I'm living with are crazy, or I'm crazy for wanting to do this. And, but other experiences along the way where you just said, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
And I've never been tempted to say enough. That's not that every day is a wonderful day. There are days when you think, both with teaching and the ministry, that you think, enough is enough. But that's never been a strong urge to.
Yeah.
I did change communities. I was with the Franciscans for a number of years, and then changed to it's called Secular Institute. And that was partly the Franciscans that I belonged to were leaving Philadelphia, going back to the Midwest. And as much as I enjoyed it there, I liked my work here. And they had nothing for me in education. It was all parish work. And I like helping in parishes on weekends, but I don't want to be a pastor. So,
Yeah.
young people are more fun.
Speaking of young people, Do you have like a word of advice for like college age people who are like trying to figure out what they want to do? Because I feel like, I don't know, like advice about like going off the beaten path, doing what you actually want, kind of like from your own experience.
Okay. Well, David would know about, what's his name? Did all the stuff on myth from a Jungian point of view.
Oh, Campbell.
Yeah, Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
And he has this phrase, follow your bliss. And, you know, that could sound like just being la la land and whatever. But I think ultimately that's what we all have to do. If we're really going to be happy in life, well, deep down, where am I going to use my talents? What do I really enjoy doing? And I mean, when I first started here, there was a young woman. She was in the honors program. I forget her name. She really wanted to be a religious sister and a missionary to Africa. And I think she was a math major, math education or something. And resisted her parents really didn't want her to go. But eventually she knew she had to go. I haven't heard from her since, but you know. And then there's a guy from Bonaventure, and I probably mentioned this in class one time, who came from a family in the Buffalo area. The family owned a candy company. The kid really wanted to be high school social studies teacher and ice hockey coach. And the father said, well, I'm not paying tuition for you to do that. You go become an accountant or some kind of business major. And he did it, you know. After about 5 years, he just said to his dad, I've tried. You know, and I think there was another son. He said, let him do it. He said, I really want to teach high school, and I really want to coach ice hockey. And he did it, you know, and that had to be hard, you know, to say to your dad. And also, I mean, you got a whole career lined up for you.
Yeah.
But it was, so I think searching that, what's your passion, and not being afraid to do some of the things that other people are saying, well, you could really make a lot more money doing this, or, you know, you could really be more famous if you did that. You know, and I well understand the pressure, you know, when people have loans and all that, you got to get a job where you can pay these things off. But, you know, to do some other things that, and not be afraid to try some things, you know, I think that's the, and, you know, kind of the other would be sometimes we think, well, you got to be really smart to do that, and you probably don't. You know, you got to be determined to succeed or to do the work that needs to be done, and you find a way to do it. So that'd be my advice. You know,
Follow your bliss.
fantastic
Yeah, that's
advice.
great
Yeah.
advice.
I have one of those magnets on my file cabinet.
Oh, great.
Yeah, God knows I mean, I've certainly met people here who are like, oh, I hate my major. And I'm like, please do something new, you know? So you just want to shake them. You brought up Campbell, and you and I discussed in class before these different like literary influences. And, you know, as a priest, I believe his name's Richard Rohr.
Mm-hmm.
He's very influenced by the whole Jungian perspective. Would you say Carl Jung and Campbell and the whole archetype symbol thing was very influential on your spiritual beliefs? Or like, what would you say are some of your influences?
Okay. Yeah, certainly Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell. And even before I had really studied much of Jung, when I was a Franciscan novice, I read Hermann Hesse, and every one of his novels I'd get my hands on. I'd go to the public library, and then the novice master actually gave me like 3 or 4 paperbacks for Christmas that year. And it was a high school kid I had taught, and he had read The Glass Speed Game, and he mentioned it to me, so the year I taught him, I read it, and that was before I was a novice, and I just followed through with it. You know, Hess did psychotherapy under Jung, and so it's a lot of Jungian imagery and the archetypes and the tensions of individuation.
Yeah.
So you know, that shaped me. The other 2 other people would be Franciscan Bonaventure, his theology, and then the theologian Karl Rahner, the Jesuit, 20th century, and and you know, they both come at it from different angles. But my dissertation was actually on the similar. If they had a conversation with each other, what would the conversation be like? And it was fun to do.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So this week is, and correct me if I mispronounce this, it's Synod Week. right?
Oh, Synod Week, yeah.
So yeah, where the Pope is asking what the young folks have to say about the church. And I know, I'm sure throughout your life, you certainly noticed this. The church has changed, I'd say a lot over time, especially over the last 20 years. How do you feel about, like, I don't want to say the liberalization, but definitely the more kind of like modernistic reform that's occurred in that time?
I'm all for it. I understand, but I don't understand some of the younger people who want to go back, like to a Latin Mass. I mean, I lived through that, in 6th grade. I mean, it's the to 8th grade. And then it started changing when I was in high school. And for me, the biggest thing there is not, well, it's Latin or English or whatever, but it's the symbolism where the priest does everything. The congregation does nothing. The servers answer the prayers, so it's all the priest. And if you had a choir, well, they were in the back singing. And again, it was not, the people in the pew just followed along with their prayer book or something like that. And so it's a very clerical church. And part of the reform of Vatican II was the church is the people of God. That we are the church. And, the priest has a clear role in ministering to that community, in holding the community together, in leading the community in prayer, but it's not all about him. So, I mean, again, I think that, as Vatican II said, the church is ever in need of reform. So, I mean, it's been 60 years since Vatican II. There's some things we have not done from the council yet, and there's some other things, I mean, that are part of, Pope Francis's dream, but his other dream is to listen, and he also comes at it from a very Jesuit kind of perspective of dialogue and discernment. So he's not afraid to hear from people who disagree with him, and he's not afraid that people, disagree with each other. He thinks that's a healthy thing. And then in respectful dialogue and conversation, you figure out where's the Spirit calling people. So yeah, there are meetings all this week, different times, small groups of undergrad students, and there's a format they follow where, what have been some of your positive experiences, what are some of your negative, and then what are some of your hopes and dreams. And then that all gets compiled together from the Philadelphia area. And April 4th, the Catholic Colleges of Philadelphia, the students who have participated, are all invited here for an evening session, and the Archbishop's coming. And there'll be some further dialogue, and it all gets compiled, sent to the Archbishop, and the bishops in the states, and then it all ends up in the Vatican. And on the basis, and then there are other groups that, like the consecrated religious, they participate, the local clergy participate. Parishes are all meant to have some kind of listening sessions. And then all this stuff gets filtered out, and what are some common themes, and it just, kind of, what do we need to do to, make the church credible and viable, to live the gospel in our time and place.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, I think that's the...
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about, of listening and, reforming in a positive manner. This is exactly what you're describing. So, yeah, I'm glad.
I mean, it's easy to tell people what they ought to be doing, but they don't listen, and then you get upset because they don't listen. But, that's I just see gospel as always invitation for people to enter into an experience and to enter into the lives of each other. So again, the more we do that as church, I think the better church we are. That'll be up Richard Rohr's alley, but I don't read him as much as I used to, but kind of.
My uncle sends me some of his lectures sometimes in emails. So he's like, oh, look at this, and so he's like, that's fun. Yeah,
I know some people on his website every day because he has a meditation for the day and things like that.
So, yeah. So also, if I remember properly, you said over winter break you went to Arizona for a conference, and if memory serves, you do a lot of administrative work for the church in some ways, shape, or form.
Okay. It was for the community I belong to, which is called Voluntas Dei, which means the will of God. And I'm the assistant director for the U.S. district. We're about 100 some priests, single laymen, and married couples. And so as being part of the administration, that was the meeting. They were like, it was our assembly. I think there were 16 or 18 of us, and kind of charting out what are some of the things we need to do in the next 4 years for the good of the district and the church. And so it was and then I was trying to avoid it, but I got called to our General Assembly, which will be in the Dominican Republic this summer for 2 weeks. And
That's fun though.
Yeah.
Yes and no. I mean, I've never been to one, but I think it's done in 3 languages. They don't do simultaneous translation, so it's French, Spanish, and English, so everything's said 3 times. So that might get tedious, but
Yeah.
I've studied French and Spanish, so maybe now I'll actually learn it.
There you go.
It's an opportunity to finally put Duolingo to
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I feel like in talking to you in class, you're very well traveled. Where is your favorite place you've been?
Oh. Hard to say. I mean, I definitely want to go to Ireland again. And when I went, I just did the middle of the country, Shannon over to Dublin. Usually I'm going for some kind of meeting, but this meeting was starting like right at the end of spring break, and they were paying the airfare. So I said, I can easily cover a couple nights at a bed and breakfast.
I actually hear it's a great idea to start a business in Ireland. Because the capital is always Dublin.
True. Actually, when I was there, their economy was shooting way up off the roof with technology and things. But I'd like to go back, maybe to the south, and probably to visit the north. Just my mother's side of the family was from there. I've been to Italy 3 or 4 times. I would love that. Love Florence, Rome. Israel, I'd like to go again for a kind of retreat pilgrimage thing. The last one was a pilgrimage, but I'd like to do like maybe with a smaller group or maybe just on my own. You know, it's just amazing to go. I mean, like to any spot, like to go to Rome and to, you know, think like the Colosseum. I mean, that's an old building. You know,
Yeah.
Or like in the Holy Land, like the paved streets. They're not much different than 2,000 years ago, you know, and you think about that, and so that you know, we're to sail on the Sea of Galilee. I mean, it was kind of engaging. I can't think of any place I wouldn't want to go back to. Yeah, so we'll see.
You're also a big beach person, if I remember properly. You brought up the beach today. I remember in class you said you're a big fan of the beach. What's your favorite part about going to the shore?
The ocean. I mean, I don't get in it near as much as I used to. Partly where I go seaside, it's a very sharp, you know. And when you're young, it's easy to get in and out. But when you get a little bit older, it's not as easy to get in and out. And the beach used to be flatter, so I used to like walk like a mile each way. And I'd do that if I go like to Ocean City or Wildwood. That's easy to walk. But seaside, you're walking on an angle. It's not good. But sit there and read novels or people watch or sleep on the beach, and then make a nice little dinner or go out with some friends.
People watching is definitely something I enjoy doing at the beach.
Yeah.
I'm sure you like it more than anyone else. Yeah, it's something to always get a kick out of, because it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
You know?
And it's fun seeing like the kids and, you know, playing with the sand, and then like the little ones trying to eat the sand, and mom and dad saying, stop!
Yeah.
And then I get annoyed with the people who want to feed the seagulls, you know, because then they all come swooping in, and that's
My thing is, like, I hate when people like play music. It's like, I'm trying to listen to the ocean, you know? Like, I just want to like flip out, but, you know, what are you gonna do? Alright, I just have one more question. So you teach religion is in sports and spirituality. What has been, well, I guess it's more than one question actually. What has been your favorite part of teaching here? And what is your favorite, like why did you decide to start teaching sports and spirituality?
Okay. Yeah, sports and spirituality is not my favorite course. I never was an athlete, so I mean it's another whole world for me. But I've come to love the topic, and it really came about. It was 2001, and it was an undergrad who just said to me, he said, why don't you teach a course like on sports and religion or sport? I said, what do you mean? He said, we were always giving examples from the world's. I just said, Donnie, I'm just trying to entertain you. That's all I'm trying to do. And then he was able to do an independent study, research thing. So he asked if we could do it on that topic. I said, well, let me see what literature's out there, if there's enough. And I was amazed. I mean, the stuff on the Bible and sports and all kinds of, there are international conferences, so I've been to several of those, and, so yeah, I let him do it, and then I took that stuff and had him look at some books. Do you think this would be a good textbook, or, would your, peers read this kind of thing? And so I got some advice from him, and then put it together, and I really got to like it, and again, I think it's, for me, part of it is, this again is Pope Francis. When people aren't in the church has to be where people are at. And the people across the board are much more in the world of sports today than they are in the church. So how do you connect with their experience? And some of that, when they are in church, especially like when some, younger people are there, some teens or whatever, and you give an example that comes from the world of sports, you can just tell that they understand what you're talking about. I've just enjoyed it. It's been a fun little project. And it takes me out of real stuffy academic theology.
Bridges the gap.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any other questions?
No, that's all.
Okay.
We really appreciate you coming.
Thank you for coming.
I really appreciate that you asked.
Well, if you have any questions, comments, or connections, feel free to email me at o'briend10@lasalle.edu.
And me, McGovern-K8 We'd love to have you on the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, send them our way.
Yeah, once again, thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
You're most
Really
welcome.
appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me here.
Oh,
Happy Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buckle down for Lent tomorrow.
Buckle down for Lent
You betcha.
tomorrow.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.